Hello students, today in this chapter we are going to study sources of pollutions. In the last chapter we have already studied what is pollutions and what are different type of pollutants. So in this chapter we are actually focusing on sources of pollutions. Okay, pollutions occur in different forms. The pollutions occur in different forms such as noise, air, water, soil and radioactives. These topic already discussed in the last video. So once again we are reading that pollution occur in different forms such as noise, air, water, soil and radioactives. Each form of pollution has two sources of occurrence. Now here it is very important point is it is written that every form of pollution, that is like noise, air, water and soil radioactive, that has a two source of occurrence, means there is a presence of two sources. First one is the point sources and the second one is the non point sources. Okay, the point sources means what? Point sources are a direct source. Point sources what? Direct source of pollutant and are easily identify, monitor and control. Means it is very important. What is point sources? It can be asked in exam also. Point sources are direct source of pollutant. What is it? That is direct source of pollutants and are easily identify, monitor and control. Means these point sources can be identified easily, monitor and that can be controlled also. And what is non-point sources? Non-point sources means these are the sources that are indirect sources. Once again, that these are the sources and these are the indirect sources and therefore difficult to control. Means from here we conclude that the point sources can be controlled and monitored, whereas the non-point sources are indirect sources and therefore it is difficult to control. Okay. Now the sources of different kind of pollutions, now we are going to discuss as per. First one is about the noise pollution. First one is about the noise pollution. Noise pollution refers to an unwanted sound. Means what is noise pollution? Noise pollution refer to an unwanted sound which produce unpleasant effect and discomfort. Means it is very important we have to remember this, that what is noise pollution or noise pollution. Noise pollution referred to as unwanted sound, means it is unwanted sounds which produces unpleasant effect or discomfort, means it is not pleasurable or it is unpleasant to our ear also. Sound becomes unwanted when it interferes with the normal activities. Means why? When the sound becomes unwanted, when it interferes with the normal activities. Normal activities comes sleepings, conversations or disrupts one's quality of life. Okay, so it is very important that when the sound become unwanted. Yes, when the sound become unwanted when it interferes with the normal activities such as sleeping, conversation and or disruption one's quality of life. Okay. Once again, what is noise? Noise pollution is basically unwanted pollution. What is noise pollution? It is unwanted unwanted sound which produces unpleasant effect and discomfort. Okay, and it is become unwanted. It is become unwanted when it interferes with the normal activities such as sleeping, conversation, and disrupts one's quality of life. Means we have to. It becomes unwanted. Now, what are the sources of noise pollution? First one is about the traffic. The rapid increasing number of vehicles on the roads are a big source of noise. First point is very important, that is due to increase in the number of vehicles, on the roads are the big source of noise pollution. Increase in traffic jams in congested areas. Yeah, second point is that increasing the traffic jams in the congested area lead to repeated hootings of the horn by the impatient drivers causing noise pollution. Means first one is that due to increase in the number of vehicles and second one is that due to increasing the traffic jams in the congested area. Second one, what is the factories? Means sources of noise pollution is about the factories. The factories produces a lot of noise pollution. Textile mills, printing press, engineering establishment and the metal works contributes heavily towards noise pollution. Means the factories produces a noise pollution. And industrial cities, often the industrial zones are located within the residential zones of the cities, especially in the case of small scale industries. Now, it is talking about that the location of industrial means the location of industries or the factories. It is basically, if you're talking about the industrial cities, often or most often the industrial zones are located within the residential zone of the city. Means the factories are located within the residential zone or especially the small scale industry. These factories are usually located on the ground floor of the residential areas and cause annoyance, discomfort, and irritation to the residential exposed to the noise, and that is inevitable produced and that is unavoidable. Okay, means from this point it is concluded that these small scale industries basically are located on the ground floors and of the residential areas and causes annoyance means create irritations and discomfort to the residential exposed means the people who are living there nearby the small scale industry, they are get exposed to the noise pollution. However, the situation is quite different in the modern planned cities like Chandigarh, where the industrial areas are kept away from the residential areas and both are separated from each other by a sufficient wide green belt. Now there are many cities, or we can talk about the planned modern cities like Chandigarh, where the industrial areas and the people or the residential areas are separated by each other by sufficient green belt. So, by this method here, the noise is not coming. So, in case of the unplanned cities, most of the industrial zones are located within the residential zone, and in case of a planned cities and the industrial zone and the residential zone are separated sufficiently by a wide green belt. Now, third point is that noises or noise from the construction site. The noise from the construction site is generally far worse than the noise originating from the factory. It is very important you have to remember that the noise from the construction site is generally greater than the noise originating from the factories. Okay. Now, our next point is going because construction itself causes high noise emission and equipment used in inherently noisy means here it is saying that the constructions or the machines that is used in the constructions that produce inherently noise, that produces very large noise. In the era of fast urbanization and demonetization or demolition and the repair activities along with the huge machines used for the purpose create a great deals of noise to the annoyance of the people living near the site of construction. Now, because as you know that due to the era, because this era is a fast urbanization means this is an era of urbanization, and due to urbanization the demolition and the repair activities means most of the buildings get demolished or and the repair activities is going along with the huge machines means these due to urbanization we got huge machines for the constructions of the roads and the highways and the buildings, and basically these huge machines used to produce a great noise, and that creates an annoyance to the people nearby the site of the constructions. Now about the loudspeaker. In India, we often use loudspeaker during the religious function, birth, marriage, elections, demonstrations, or commercial advertising. So loudspeaker is also a source of noise. So in India, actually we are talking about in India, we often use loudspeakers that is during religious functions, birth, marriage, elections, and demonstrations or the commercial advertising. Loudspeaker are therefore a major source of noise pollution. So from here we can conclude that loudspeaker is also a major source of noise pollution. Now talking about the airport, that is noise pollution caused by the airport has been increasingly steadily during recent years. Now, as you know that airport and in airport noise pollution that is caused by the airplane is of great high, especially in the area close to the international airport, and this problem has mainly arisen because of the widespread use of heavy long range jet aircraft. Why the noise is more? Because we are using heavy long range jet aircrafts. Noise made by the jet plane is more disrupting than that of a propeller driven aircraft because it is a far higher pitch. So now we are talking there is a difference between the jet planes and the old propeller driven aircraft, because that is the noise produced by the jet planes, and the noise this is produced by the jet planes is more disturbing because it has got higher pitch. Now, jet noise is caused by the violent mixing of jet gases from the engine with the surrounding air, and it is at maximum level during the takeoff when the engine delivers maximum thrust and reduces rapidly as the aircraft climbs. Now, it is talking about the jet engine. So here the jet noise basically produces a violent is jet noise basically produced by violent mixing of the jet gases from the engine with the surrounding air. Means there is a mixing of jet gases of the air and the surrounding air, and at the maximum level the noise is maximum. Means at the maximum level during the takeoff, when the engine delivers maximum thrust and reduces rapidly at the aircraft climbs. Now as it goes up, the noise goes down rapidly. During landing, the main source of high frequency noise is the noise sound made by the air compressor and the turbine blades. Now, during the landing, if we are talking during the takeoff, it creates due to mixing of what? Mixing of jet of the gases from the engine and the surrounding air. And during the landing, that is the main source, that is the main sound that is produced by the air compressor and the turbine blade. Aircraft pass close to the ground for quite a distance during the landing operations, and this noise often constitutes a major sustained environmental nuisance than the instant noise of shorter duration produced during the takeoff. Means it is talking about during the landing, means the noise is more as compared to the during the takeoff. Now other sources are what? Besides the above sources, the other sources of noise pollution are household. How household? How a household is a source of many indoor noise. Household is a source of many indoor noises, such as the banging of door, noise of playing children, crying of infants, moving of infrastructures, entertainment equipments like radio players and the television sets, domestic gadgets like mixer grinder, pressure cooker, diesel cooler, air conditioners, exhaust fans, vacuum cleaners, sewing machine, and the washing machines. These are the noise that is produced generally in the household. Now about the agricultural equipments, the tractors, the threshers, harvesters, tubewells, powered tiller, and all generates noise during the usage. Means we when you are using the agricultural equipments, we generally get a noise. In the same way, when you are using the household equipment, we generally get a noise. Now about from the defense, a defense, that is a lot of noise that is produced in added to the atmosphere by the artillery, tanks, launching of the rockets, explosions, exercising of military airplanes, and the shooting practices. Means defense also produce a lot of noise. How? By the artillery, tanks, launching of the rockets, explosions, exercising of military airplanes, and the shooting practices. Okay, and the screaming of the jet engines, and the supersonic booms have a defeating impacts on the ears. In the extreme cases, have been known to the settler, windows planes, and old dilapidated buildings. Okay. Now miscellaneous can be what? Miscellaneous can be about this is noise pollution or noise that is from the automobiles, repair shops, blastings, bulldozing, and the stone crushing. These are the miscellaneous noise that is produced during blasting, bulldozing, and the stone crushing. Now we'll talk about the air pollution. The contamination of air by the pollutants. Now we are talking about what is the air pollution. The contamination of air by the pollutants like dust, smoke, harmful gases, and which causes adverse effect on the human beings, plants, animals, and the environment is known as air pollution. What is air pollution? The contamination of air by the pollutants. And what are the pollutants? Like dust, smoke, and harmful gases which causes adverse effect on the human beings, plants, animals, environment is known as air pollution. The air pollution can be classified into many ways as follows. First one is according to the origin. Means the air pollutants is classified as according to the origin. First part is the primary pollutant. The pollutant that are eliminated, these are emitted directly from the sources and are found in the atmosphere in the form in which they are emitted are known as primary pollutants, such as ash, smoke, dust, radioactive compounds, or oxides of sulfur, and the nitrates. Means what are the primary pollutants? The primary pollutants that The primary pollution that are emitted directly from the sources, that are emitted directly from the sources and are found in the atmosphere in the form in which they are emitted are known as primary pollutants, such as ash, smoke, dust, radioactive compounds, oxides of sulfur and nitrogen, etc. And second one, we are going to study about the secondary pollutants. Secondary pollutant, the pollutant that are found, the pollutants that are found in the atmosphere by the chemical interactions. Means secondary pollutant we are, that is pollutant that are found in the atmosphere by the chemical interaction between the primary pollutants and the atmospheric constituents. Means there is a interaction, or there is a chemical interaction between the primary pollutant and the second, or and the atmospheric constituents are known as what is secondary pollutant? Very best example is about the pollutants are the sulfur trioxide, ozone, that is PAN, that is peroxyacetylene, nitrate, and the ketones. These are the examples of the secondary pollutants, and these are basically found in the atmosphere by the chemical interaction between the primary pollutants and the atmospheric constituents. Now, according to the state of matters, the first one is that the air pollutants are classified into gaseous, that is gaseous air pollutants, and the particulates air pollutant. First one is that these pollutants are exist in a gaseous state at normal temperature. Means these pollutants are basically existing at in gaseous state, or in gaseous form at normal temperature and pressure. They are carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, oxides, and sulfur oxides, etc. And the particulate air, that is these are not gaseous substance, these are not gaseous substance, they are suspended droplets. They are suspended droplets as solid particles or a mixture of two. Means if you're talking about the particulate air pollutants, they are not gases, they are not gaseous substance, they are suspended droplets, solid particles, and the mixture of two. They include the dust, the fumes, smoke, soot, and the flies. Means they are not actually present in the gaseous state, they are basically present in the particulate state. Now, according to the sources, that is according to the sources, pollutants originates from natural sources. Now, these include volcanic eruptions. Natural sources will be the volcanic eruptions, deflections of the sand and the dust, as well as forest. Deflation means deflation of the sand and the dust, as well as forest, and a wildfire of natural vegetation. These are the examples of the natural sources of the air pollutions. Now about the man-made, these include humans activities related to industries, urban centers, aircrafts, nuclear experiments, automobiles, agriculture, and powers. These are man-made sources. Now sources. Now we have already talked about what we have already talked about air pollutions. Now we are going to study about the sources of air pollutions. Many types of the pollutants are released into the air from the various sources. As we have already studied up to here, that there are many types of pollutants that are released into the air from the various sources. And the first one is the major man-made sources of air pollutions are automobiles, industries, burning of the garbage, and the bricks kiln. These sources release pollutants such as oxides of carbon, oxides of sulfur, and the oxides of nitrogen, and the hydrocarbons, ozone, chlorofluorocarbon, etc. Now we are one by one we are going to study about the sources of air pollutions. First one is that vehicles are mainly responsible for more than 80% of the total air pollution. Means vehicles are mainly responsible for more than 80% of the total air pollutions, and the major pollutants that is released from the automobiles, locomotives, aircraft, etc. include carbon monoxide, unburnt hydrocarbons, nitrogen monoxide. Means what are the pollutant that is released from the automobiles or the locomotives in the aircraft includes carbon monoxide, unburnt hydrocarbons, and the nitrogen monoxides. Okay, means as we've already stated that vehicles are basically responsible for more than 80% of the total air pollutions, and the major pollutants that is released from the automobiles are carbon monoxide, unburnt hydrocarbons, and the nitrogen monoxide. In the measure, if you're talking about in the measure, metropolitan cities like Delhi, Mumbai, and Kolkata, vehicular exhaust more than 75% of what carbon monoxide, 74.5% of all hydrocarbons, and 40% of all oxides, and the 30% of all suspended particulates matter. Means if you're talking about the metropolitan cities, means the vehicle is responsible for exhausting 75% of carbon monoxide, 45% of all hydrocarbons, and 40% of all oxides, and 30% of all suspended particulate matter. You can see in the chart that is carbon monoxide, that is a carbon monoxide pollutant. This is pollutant, and the sources is what? Gasoline fuel is a source, and when it burns, it produces carbon monoxide. Gasoline fuel, motor vehicles fuel, burning of wool and the coal, solid waste disposal, and the industrial process. In this, these are the sources of the carbon monoxide. Again, for the nitrogen monoxide, the sources are primary sources are the motor vehicles, power generation states, and combustion of organic matter, furnace stacks, and incineration. These are the sources of the nitrogen monoxide. Again, sulfur dioxide, that is the mainly due to the burning of coal, a smelting operation, refineries, chemical plants, open burning of the garbage, and municipal incineration. These are the sources of the sulfur oxides. Now, vehicle motor, industrial process, garbage, and the agriculture waste are the source of the pollutants like hydrocarbons. In the similar way, the motor vehicles, fuel combustion, solid waste disposal are the source of the pollutants or particulates. Now, air pollution is caused by what? Air pollution is caused by gaseous and the volatile hydrocarbons. Means here it is talking about that air pollution basically caused by the gaseous and the volatile hydrocarbons such as methane, acetylene, and the ethylene. Some hydrocarbons like ethylene, which undergoes chemical reactions in the presence of sunlight, and nitrogen oxides form that is photochemical oxidant like ozone, and that are harmful. Now it is very important, you have to remember this one, that some of the hydrocarbons like ethylene and that undergoes a chemical reactions in the presence of sunlight. Means this in the presence of sunlight plus nitrogen oxides form a photochemical oxidants means the formula will be like this, that there is some hydrocarbons plus what will that is in the presence of, that is nitrogen oxide plus nitrogen, or in the presence of sunlight. Means we are getting sunlight, we get a photochemical oxidant. This is very important, that is when some hydrocarbons like what, like that is this one photochemical, that is in the ethylene, and which undergoes chemical reaction in the presence of sunlight, that is, and the nitrogen oxides form a photochemical oxidant like ozone that are harmful. Fuel combustions in the automobiles are also produces nitrogen. The fuel combustions that is in the automobiles also produce nitrogen dioxide. Now about the industrial air pollutant. Industries such as chemical industries, paper and the pulp mill, industries such as chemical industries, paper and the pulp mills, cotton mills, and the petroleum refineries produce most air pollutions. Now, we are talking about the industrial air pollution. So, in industries such as chemical industries, paper industries, pulp industries, cotton industries, and the petroleum refineries produces most air. The cement factories emit dust, which is a potential health hazard. Now, it's very important that the cement factories basically emit dust, which is potentially health hazards. The smoke coming out from the factories has harmful particles of smoke. The smoke that is coming out from the factories have a small particles of dust, carbon, metals, and other solids, liquid, and the radioactive materials which get mixed into the smoke and pollute the air. So it's very important that the smoke that is coming out from the factories have a small particles of dust, carbon, metals, and other solids, liquid, and the radioactive materials which get mixed into the smoke and pollute the air. Now, burning of sulfur in coal or heavy oil in thermal power plants release sulfur dioxide in the air. Now, we are talking about the sulfur dioxide, means the burning of sulfur in the coal or heavy oil in the thermal power plant. They are going to release what? Sulfur dioxide in the air. The sulfur dioxide basically combined with oxygen. Sulfur dioxide basically combined with the oxygen to form sulfuric acid, and so oxygen and water to form sulfuric acids. To form sulfuric acid, and in the atmosphere, and they are going to release in the atmosphere, which is health hazards, and it is also produce acids. It also produces acids. Now, Kanpur. Now we are talking about a city, that is Kanpur. Kanpur has the heaviest air pollution because due to the dust and the smoke of the factories. In winter, smog. In winter, that is smoke. Smoke what? It is a combination of a smoke plus fog. envelopes that is cover many cities, creating health hazards and the traffic problem. Now it is very important that these are smoke, that is it is a combination of smoke and fog, and these are smoke basically going to cover many cities and creating health hazards and the traffic problem. During the winter months, due to severe cold, the use of the coal and the fossil fuels to heat homes and for other purposes increases. Now we are talking about that during the month of during the month of winter, generally that is due to severe cold, the people use coal and the fossil fuel in order to heat rooms and for other purposes. These lead to the formation of smog. And in some cities like Delhi, a smog severely is aggravated by stable burning. And if you talk about the Delhi, that is a stable burning is the main problem in the neighboring agricultural areas. And smog is harmful for the health as it causes asthma. What are the adverse effect of smoke? It causes basically asthma, bronchitis, and the shortness of breath, eye, and the noise irritation, etc. Smog also produces visibility and lead to problem in the traffic movement. As smog also produces or reduces visibility. Means a smog is going to means reduce the visibility, and you can say that is this create a traffic problem. Now we are talking about the burning of garbage. Burning of garbage pollute the atmosphere by emitting such gases as carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matters such as dust and the smoke. In this topic, we are actually focusing on the burning garbage. Means if we burn the garbage, it is going to pollute the atmosphere by emitting some of the gases like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and the particulate matter such as dust and smoke. The burning of refuse and now if you and again the burning of refuse and in the municipal incinerators are responsible for the air pollution. Means if you are going to burn the refuse or the garbage in the municipal incineration, they are using incinerations, are also responsible for the air pollution. Now biomass, that is burnings like forest fire, produces nitrogen dioxide in the atmosphere, and nitrogen dioxide is doubly or readily soluble in water and form nitric acid. Now again it is very important that if you burn biomass such as forest fire produces nitrogen dioxide, and that is in the atmosphere, it is going into the atmosphere. Now this nitrogen dioxide is readily soluble with water and to form a nitric acid, and which is again fall out as a rain. Now, our next topic is very interesting one, that is the sources of water pollution. So what sources of water pollution can be divided into the following two categories. Now, the sources of water pollution, this can be divided into two categories. First one is domestic. Man uses water for drinking, preparation of food, bathing, and for cleaning the house. As we know that what are the use of water, that is we generally use for drinking, preparation of the food, bathing, and floor cleaning the house, etc. Most of the most of the used water is basically is going to drain out through municipal drain. Now as we see here in this is that most of the water that is coming out from the factories is basically drain out, and it is basically drain out and poured and basically drain out and poured into the rivers and lakes. Domestic wastewater that is mixed with other wastes such as plastic, detergents, animal dungs, and the human fecal materials is known as municipal waste. Now, it is very important. It can be a question that what is municipal waste? So, domestic wastewater means this domestic wastewater is going to mix with other wastes such as plastic, detergents, animal dungs, and the human fecal materials, and this is called at municipal waste. Once again, please say domestic wastewater that is mixed with other wastes such as plastic, detergents, animal dungs, and the human fecal materials is known as municipal waste. Many detergents and the fertilizer contains phosphate, and when the phosphates are discharged into the waterway. Now, as we know that these detergents and the fertilizer contains phosphate, and when this phosphate is going to discharge into water, their remnants means their left material promote rapid growth of algae, and such enrichment process is known as eutrophication. So this eutrophication term is very important. Means what is eutrophication? That is when many detergents and the fertilizer that contains phosphate, when these phosphate is going to discharge into the water, their remnants or the left out materials promotes the rapid growth of algae, and such enrichment process is known as eutrophication. Aquatic weeds multiply. Now here what is going to happen? Here the aquatic weeds is going to multiply rapidly in many water bodies, and they interfere with the fishing, navigation, and the irrigation. Means and these rapid growth of weeds is going to interfere with fishing, navigation, and irrigation. Now we are going to deal about the industrial. Industries dealing with the chemicals, pulps, paper, food processing, etc. produce waste materials such as heavy metals or synthetic organic compound. Means the industries that are dealing with the chemicals, pulps, and the paper, food processing, and basically produce waste materials, and these waste materials are heavy metals or synthetic organic compounds, and these reach water bodies either through the direct discharge or by leaching from the waste dump. Now it is very important that we are talking about the heavy metals. Okay, heavy metals we can say about the lead, mercury and all. So these these rich water, these material basically is going to reach water bodies either through a direct discharge or by leaching from the waste dumps. Means leaching means water by slowly penetrating into the water. Among the heavy metals like cadmium, lead, mercury, copper, chromium, etc. get into water. Means in exam the question can be asked what are the heavy metals, or state the example. You have to say that about the cadmium, lead, mercury, copper and the chromium. Now one by one we are going to study about the heavy metals. First one is about the lead. Lead is used in many industries and may accumulates in biological system. Now if this lead basically is going to accumulate in what biological system, how basically this lead is a waste material of industrial, and this is going to leach with the wastewater. Lead can enter water from the many sources like mining and smelting of lead bearing ores and the metals. Means how the lead enters into the water. It can be enters into the water from many sources like mining and the smelting of lead bearing ores or the metals, lead plumbing, paints and the ceramic glass, and the disposal of lead zinc batteries in the garbage. So what are the sources, or how what are the methods, or how the lead enters into the biological system? So there are many methods such as mining and the smelting of lead bearing ores, and lead plumbing, paints and the ceramic glass, and the disposal of the lead zinc batteries into the garbage. And these lead and enters into the water bodies, and from water bodies it is going to enter into the biological system. Now again the magazine. What is magazine? Manganese has been found widely in the nature and used in the manufacturing industry. As you know that manganese plays an important role in the manufacturing of industries, and it is also a heavy metal. Now talking about the mercury, that is mercury is used in the plastic and the chemical industries. As you know mercury, what is the use of the mercury? That is mercury generally used in the plastic and the chemical industries. Methyl mercury is most common form of mercury that is found in the aquatic environment. Now, if you're talking about that is what are the sources? What are the sources of mercury? That is the first one is methyl mercury, that is mostly found in the mercury in the aquatic environment, and it has been reported that the accumulation of mercury is as high as 5,000 times the accumulation of fish and is passed to man. Means it is very important that the accumulation of mercury is 5,000 times more than the amount of more than the amount in the fish that is passed to the man. Means if the mercury if one suppose if 1 gram of mercury is passed to fish, then 5,000 grams means from here we can conclude that 5,000 times that is passed to the man also. Our next topic is about the sources of soil pollutions. Now we are going to discuss about the sources of soil pollutions. The soil pollution is the result of several sources. Means as you know that this soil pollution is as a result of several sources which can be categorized under the following heads. The first one is about the chemical fertilizer, biomedical waste and the pesticides. This is a very good diagram. Okay. Now one by one we are going to deal with the chemical fertilizers, biomedical waste and the pesticides. Chemical fertilizers, that is agriculture practices that is today use chemical fertilizer. Agriculture fertilizers, that is agriculture practices today use chemical fertilizer which contains such plants nutrients as nitrogen, phosphorus and the potassiums. Now if you're talking about the agriculture or chemical fertilizers, that is as you know that in agriculture practices we generally use chemical fertilizers and which contains that is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. The excessive use of the chemical fertilizer create a pollutions. We know that if there is excessive use of anything, it is going to create pollution, any types of pollution. So if you are going to excessively use the chemical fertilizer, this is going to create a soil pollutions. The fertilizers are used to enrich the soil, but they also contaminate the soil with their impurities. Now Actually, what is the use of the chemical fertilizer? Basically, the purpose of the chemical fertilizer is used to enrich the soil. It's used to enrich the soil, but they also contaminate the soil with their impurities. When the fertilizer are contaminated with other synthetic organic pollutants, the water in the soil get polluted. Now, when the soil, which basically when we're talking about this, when the soil are contaminated with other synthetic organic pollutants, the water in the soil get polluted. Now we are talking about the biological waste. Hospitals, that is waste contains organic materials, chemical metals, needles, plastic, etc. Means we biomedical waste generally comes from the hospital waste, and that contains organic materials, chemicals, metals, needles, plastic, etc. And the dumping of the domestic sewage and the hospital organic waste is going to contaminate the soil with the pathogens that affect the human health. Okay, and the excreta of the humans and the animals pollute the soil. We know that the excreta of the humans and the animal are also going to pollute the soil. Intestinal parasite constitute the most serious soil pollution problems in the third world countries. Now, we're talking about the third world countries, means dark countries, means we can say that as underdeveloped countries, that is this parasite, that is intestinal parasite, that is constitute the most serious soil pollution problem in the third world countries. Now, we're talking about the pesticides. Pesticides and the weedicides are used. These pesticides and the weedicides are used to control the pest and the weeds on the farm. The purpose of the pesticides, what is the? It is used to control the pest and the weed on the farm, and they contaminate the soil. Pesticides residues residues, means pesticides, the remaining of the pesticides change the chemical properties of the soil and accumulate on the soil permanently. Now, it is very important that the residues of the pesticides is going to change the chemical properties of the soil and also accumulate on the soil permanently, and introduce these toxic material into the plant product. Means there is actually transfer there in the food chain. We see these pesticides also. Now, sources of radioactive pollution. The two sources of the radioactive pollutions are natural sources. First one is natural sources, and the second one is about the man-made sources. The first one we are talking about, the first one, that these sources are about the cosmic rays and the with energies energetic radiations that is reaching from the earth, reaching the earth from the outer space. Though they are a major hazards in space, they are not dangerous for organism on the earth. Means we are talking about the natural source. So the cosmic rays that is coming from the outer space, these is these radioactive sources are basically is a major hazards in the space, but not dangerous for the organism and the earth. Means these cosmic rays is not dangerous for the organisms on the earth. Now, we are talking about the man-made sources. The following sources are caused by the radioactive pollutions. The X-rays waste. From the first point is about the X-rays waste. The use of the X-ray is common for detecting skeleton disorder. As we know that the purpose of the X-ray is used to detect the skeleton disorder. The cancer patient undergo radiation and isotopes radiations. As we know that a cancer patient that is undergo radium and the isotope radiations, the X-ray pass through the genetic cell. The X-ray basically passes through the genetic cell and affect the chromosomes, resulting into the mutations. Means from here we can calculate the mutation basically is going to happen. Why? Because this X-ray is going to pass through the genetic cells and affect the chromosomes and resulting into the mutation. Means there is some change in the chromosomes. Now, second point is that radioactive fallout from the nuclear plants. In the nuclear plants that is established, both fuel elements and the coolant are the source of radiation pollution. So we have to understand that is in nuclear plant, the fuel element what are the fuel that you are using, and also the coolant are the source of radiation pollutions. Radioactive waste that is from the atomic reactors are the hazards to living organism, and even if the radioactive waste is buried undergo, they may escape into the surrounding, and inert gases escapes as vapors and pollute the environment. Now we are talking about the disposal of the radioactive waste. Means these radioactive waste are from the that is coming from the atomic reactors are very hazards to the living organism, and even though these radioactive waste is going to buried under the ground, they may escape into the atmosphere. Means these rays can escape into the surrounding. Now about the nuclear weapon, the testing of the nuclear weapons that is involved using radioactive substances like uranium-235 and the plutonium-239 for the fusion, and the radioactive waste emitted during these tests make the surrounding material radioactive. Radioactive particles are carried away to the distant places by the wind. You know that these particles, radioactive particles, are generally carried away to the distant places by the wind, and they are brought down by the rains. They are also brought down by the rains. The raindrops containing these radioactive particles fall on the earth and affect the soil, causing the soil pollution. And from the soil, the radioactive material such reaches the water sources, and where the aquatic organisms absorb and accumulate them through the food chain and pass to the human beings. Means in this paragraph, it is talking about that radioactive particles that is basically released during the nuclear experiment, and these radioactive particles is going to pass by the winds, and by the wind it is going to fall out on the earth, and it is going to affect the soil, and from the soil it is going to affect, it is going to reach to the water sources, and from the water sources it is going to the aquatic organism, and from the aquatic organism it is going to the food chain, and then passes to the human beings, and then passes to the, so directly and indirectly we are actually we are the end result, and we get affected. Namely, its effects are more directly felt by the receivers. Its effect means its effects are more directly felt by the receivers. That is the main only. Although noise pollution is not fatal, although noise pollution is not fatal to the human life, yet its our second point is about what? We are talking about the noise pollution. Although the noise pollution is not fatal to the human life, yet its effect cannot be overlooked, because first one is that repeated exposure to the noise reduces the sleeping hour and productivity or efficiency of human beings, and it's also affect the peace of mind and invade the privacy of human beings. And most of the noise that is originating from the that is industrial urban areas, the main source of, I think one point last page I am missing here, so I have to add one last point. Okay. This was our last point, sorry. Means actually this slide was for different chapter, and actually from here means we are talking about which, that is radioactive pollutions. So the last topic will be about the radioactive isotopes. Last topic will be about radioactive isotope. The radioactive isotopes are used in the research laboratories. Means where the isotopes are used, they are basically used in the research laboratories, and when the wastewater from these laboratories reaches to the rivers, streams, lakes, etc., pass through the sewers and they cause water pollution. And when these isotopes are washed wastewater, and that is released into the rivers, and again going to pollute the water pollutions. So now about the question, from the question you can understand that name any three air pollutants and the sources of each other. You can do this by yourself. And the second one is that what are the natural source of air pollution, already studied. Name one industry that which pollute the air, and with gases as well as with the particulate matter. You can also write this. What is known as smog, already discussed. What harms is done by the smog, especially in winter, this is also discussed. Name three gases that is emitted during the burning of garbage, this is also discussed. Mention any two source of water pollution, this is also discussed. Name any two heavy metals that is from the industry that pollute the water, this is also discussed. Mention any two sources of soil pollution, already discussed. Why are radioactive pollutants are very dangerous, this is also discussed. Now about the structure question, first one is with respect to the noise, second one is with respect to the air pollution, and the third one is with respect to the water pollution. So I think these three questions you can write in the exam also. Thank you दोस्तों.